Hey everybody, Prepper Nurse 1 here. Today is Thursday, November 12th, 2020. It is much cooler. It is up to 48 degrees now. We were in the 30s this morning. It was a bit chilly. I actually just put the puppies back out. They were inside for a while. It was overcast this morning. But as you can see now, the clouds, it's cleared up and it's not too shabby, but it's sun is actually already over here. Days are getting so short, it's ridiculous how short the days are getting. And there's Mr. Max right there. So anyway, interesting things to share with you guys today, okay? So I want you to think back just before the election started. And what did Hillary Clinton tell Joe Biden? What did she tell Joe Biden? She said, do not concede the election no matter what. If you guys remember that, okay? Just trying to lay the groundwork for this whole thing. And so this is actually amazingly brilliant, to be honest with you. How many times in history have we had it where a president has not conceded the election? Okay? It's happened twice before. In 1800 and 1824. Those were the two times in our history where the president did not concede the election. So what does it mean, when the president concedes? Like the last election, obviously when President Trump had beaten Hillary, and Hillary, called the president and she conceded and congratulated him and blah, blah, blah. That's what normally happens in an election. You have, a clear-cut winner. It's cut and dry, and then the other person says, well, all right, well, I now give up. I realize that I'm beat, so I'm going to let this go. But when you have an election like with this year, in so many very, very closely contested states, swing states, and there's a lot of issues, there is obviously the accusation of improprieties as far as, fraud happening with the election. So if the president had conceded and said, yes, I'm going to go ahead and take this and just eat it, then they win, right? Then the Democrats win and Biden gets to be the president and we go from there. But because the president did not concede, what happens? Well, right now we are having the fight, court fight. All right, and let's say we go through that exhaustive procedure and that ends up not having a conclusion with that part, all right? What happens then? Well, then what happens is if it goes to that point, just before inauguration, the inauguration of the next president, what would happen is it would go into the House of Representatives. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, well, wait a minute, the Democrats have control of the House. But in this case, that's not how it would work. In this case, the way it would work is it would go to the House of Representatives, but each state would be enacted one vote. So each state would be given one vote. So it wouldn't be like you would think. If you look at it that way, you have, 50 states, right? It's 36 or 37 of those 50 states are Republican states. So if it comes down to that measure, and if it gets to that point, okay, and again, Hillary knew what she was talking about not conceding, and the president is not a stupid man either, okay? If it comes down to that point where the fight goes to the Congress, okay, and each state is afforded one vote, well, with 36 Republican states, who do you think is going to be the next president of the United States? It would be President Trump again. This has happened before. Hasn't happened in a very, very long time, obviously. But I think that this is very, very interesting. Something to think about. Lawyers know all that stuff. That's who knows that stuff. They play these games. And stuff like that. Now, again, we have a very hotly contested election. It may turn out, again, we don't know for sure yet. We know that it may turn out that you're going to have fraud proven, and if fraud is proven that was happened in this election, again, when dead people are voting, for some reason to me, that means there's some kind of fraud. Now, to what scale is the fraud? That's the other thing that we don't know yet, okay? But again, there is definitely always, guys, in every election, there is fraudulent activity. I mean, that's an absolutely no-brainer, okay? But to what degree is the fraud being, used? So, again, I think you're going to see that if they do not prove the fraud in court, and that continues on and goes on to the next level, and then the next level would be the courts, obviously, and dealing with it that way. And if it goes to Congress, each state gets one vote. One vote. And again, there are 36 Republican states. There are 24 Democratic states. So, or Republican. 36 Republican, 24, right? 14. I'm sorry, I am absolutely, my math today is completely off. 36 Republican states, 14 Democrat states. So, what it would mean would be, they would be the ones deciding who the next president is, and that would mean that President Trump would be the president again. And if that is the case, and that's how it ends up going, you are going to see people completely lose their minds. Again, half the people like Trump, half the people want Biden. It's pretty close as far as, that goes, as far as what the votes are saying. But again, are they accurate and are they true? That is what is up for question. So the only way to deal with that in the right way is to let it go, follow the channels, and then you get what happens where Congress ends up deciding who's going to be the next president. And like I said, if that is the case and it gets to that point, that vote would be done and President Trump would remain the president of the United States. And again, like I said, you would see unquestionable violence, rioting, looting, because people didn't get their own way. That's gonna, and like I said, it's just it's gonna be very, very interesting. It's gonna be very, very interesting. But like I said, when you have a presidential candidate concedes, basically, he's like the general of that army. Okay. So he's like the general of the Republicans, and everybody that supported the president, that wanted to be with the president, and have him win. If he concedes, then he's basically saying it's okay. We're surrendering. Let's go ahead and do that peaceful transfer of power and that type of thing. But if he doesn't concede, there's definitely channels that have to be followed, and this is what could happen. And again, and I've told you guys before, like him or dislike him, President Trump is not a stupid man. Not a stupid man at all. He is a businessman, okay? Biden is a career politician. So there's a big, big difference there. Interesting to see how this plays out, but I thought I would share this with you because I think it's really, really great information. And it'll be interesting to see how it works out. I definitely want to hear your feedback on this topic, okay? It's going to be an interesting ride if it continues on this way. Very, very interesting ride. I'm still waiting to see if they can prove the fraud. I find that, like I said, it's amazing to me, and this is something that I wanted to share with you guys as well. I'd say to show you Max coming up. He's like, hey, you're down here, I'm coming. Yeah. It's amazing to me that all these news networks, there's absolutely no fraud in the election. He needs to concede. Watch how they're pushing for him to concede, guys. Watch how they're pushing him to concede. Because they, like the other experts know, there's consequences if he does not succeed. And if he pushes this all the way, he could be reelected by the Congress. which I think is absolutely amazing. It's a brilliant play if that's how it works out. So something to think about, something to keep an eye on. Again, people will absolutely lose their freaking minds. Lose their minds. If you cannot have the legitimacy of the election, you know, that there was no cheating and all that stuff proven, you know, and again, we're talking about a fight that's not going away anytime soon. But again, the media is completely biased one way and has been since even before the president was in office. They were talking about trying to impeach him before he was even president. So that's how crazy that the hate is unbelievable. The galvanization of hate is amazing to me. It really, truly is. So, but again, something to think about, something to definitely pay attention to. I thought this was a really interesting topic, and I wanted to share it with you. Again, I want your feedback. I want to hear what you guys have to say, what you think about this being a possibility of this happening. But it's definitely something that could come into play, and it's amazing, amazingly brilliant. You know, so again, history has a way of repeating itself. Remember that, number one. If we pay attention to history and learn from history, we can use it to our advantage, okay? So anyway, I am going to jump off here for right now. I'm going to get this video up for you guys. Remember, we are all in this together. That is important to remember. Also remember to hug and kiss the ones you love. Tell them every single day, tomorrow is not guaranteed. Also remember, guys, STD. It's one step at a time, one thing at a time, and one day at a time. Whatever you are trying to do, whatever you are trying to accomplish, you can do it. The only one that's going to stop you from reaching those goals is you. Stay away from negativity. Stay away from negative people. They just want to try to bring you down. So stay positive and hang in there, and you guys are going to be just fine, okay? I will talk to you all later. Prepper Nurse 1, out for now.